topic. That's digital transformation, which is no more a buzzword, which we've been talking all these years. And, and this what we are seeing in last 2 years or 3 years, we are seeing so much of transformation which has happened in, all our facets of our life. Can I request you to share, let me share my screen. And after very inquisitive talk from Khushbu and Amit on the dark web and the IPRs and GDPR, I think now is I'll discuss on the security part of it, and also the cyber security when we talk it from the as a AI, as to how it really helps you getting into the digital transformation, and what's really making the AI as an enabler for the digital transformation. And as students, as faculty, where do you stand a chance to really work in these areas? Because this is where there are lots of traction which we are seeing, which is happening. And what's the digital transformation, and what are the disruptive technologies which we've been talking of? And there are almost 16 to 17 disruptive technologies which are there altogether. But the top 5 which really affect us, and some form or the other, they are all there. IoT, we all know, the sensors, the smart cities, and even the mobile phones. What you have today has got almost 9 to 10 sensors, on your mobile phone itself. Then is the big data. That's the amount of data which you create, whether it's a social media, whether it's your mobile, whether it's a call record, whether it's Snapchat, everywhere you're creating that big data. Now comes, the part which is interesting, that's the artificial intelligence and the machine learning. So whatever is the trails of data which you're leaving, how do you really analyze it? You use machine learning, right? And AI. AI is a misnomer as of now, because really AI is in a very supervised manner which we are working. It's still very far away, but definitely we do talk of AI, in some part of the other, more in the research segment, rather than, getting in as implemented use cases in the market. And of course, the blockchain. And that blockchain is where you're changing the way you work. And to tell you all is, we all remember 1990s when really the internet came in, and it made us change the way we work today. We're all on the internet. All our work is online. Whether it's a SAP application, whether it's CRMs, whether it's the internet connectivity, whether it's browsing your data. So everything is on the internet. And blockchain, of course, is definitely going to be changing the way you work. And why I'm saying so, your internet, of course, is going to change even with the blockchain. There's a protocols which are going to come up. It's a distributed architecture. That's the way it's going to be there. And also, what's going to happen is all your applications which you see today will be on, moving on to the blockchain, which will give you security. And while I say so, all of them really, come up with a challenge. That's the cyber security, your cyber threats, your cyber attacks which are there. And we also talk about the data privacy, which Khushbu touched upon, the cyber resiliency part of how we get back our network immediately, as and when there's an attack which is happening. To give you a perspective, and every one of you, has been seeing of late what has happened since COVID. We saw the number of cyber attacks which are happening has increased multifold. We saw almost 3.2 billion malware attacks. We are seeing 20% jump in the ransomware attacks in the last 6 months itself. And there was a different trend. We saw lots of phishing sites which came up. It's almost 1 lakh phishing sites which came up in just March and April. And hackers are on the run. They are really enjoying this time when we are actually going through a very testing time as a humanity, right? So cyber is the space where it's really taking on, and that's what we are trying to discuss as to what are the disruptive technology, how is the digital transformation changing, and how the cyber is primarily playing a major role into it, right? So we talk of the digital economy, we talk of the data economy, we talk of the crypto economy, and we talk of the value economy. And all these economy which I've just told you, if you put it in a separate bucket, you're dealing with them right now in some form or the other. And the slide which I showed you earlier, the technologies which I showed you earlier, are all forming part of all the separate economies which are coming in the times to come. And when we say the digital transformation, it is also accelerating the attack surface. The huge surface area which is there today as an attack surface, or the attack vector, we say, is really phenomenal and very difficult to control. Starting from the mobile phone which is there in your hand, to your laptop which you're working in your offices or your colleges, the data what you're accessing, right? So everywhere the attack surface is really increasing. And what are the enablers for them? One is the IIoT, that's the industrial IoT. By the time I think most of when you graduate, you will have the IoTs all in the manufacturing units. All the manufacturing companies will have the IoT, where the sensors will tell that what component is required on the supply chain, or the supply line, or the manufacturing line. They will be so very intelligent. The factories are going to become intelligent. Everybody talks of the 5G, the speed what we're going to get, and the data connectivity what we're going to get. It's really phenomenal. Your container workloads which are there, right? So the cloud, primarily, everything is shifting to cloud. Okay, artificial intelligence, of course, is a major challenge, because now the fight is not going to be a human against the computer. The battle or the challenge is going to be the machine against the machine. That's the AI going to be all about, right? It's going to be good AI, there's going to be bad AI, so it's a mix and combination of all. And of course, the blockchain. So when I say all this put together, you really need to have a different kind of skill sets, different kind of technologies to tackle these kind of attacks. It's not very easy, and the existing tool sets what we have, it's a not one shoe fit all model. You will have different kind of technologies which are going to be, and if you look at it, if you are really interested in the technology space, earlier you had just the firewalls, you had the IPS, IDS, UTM that used to suffice your network. But with these kind of scenario, you have a challenge. Okay, you're talking of deception technology, you talk of phishing technology, you talk of zero trust networks, right? You have the DNS tool. So huge number of technologies, are required in this kind of digital transformation, which can really, take on. And what are the challenges what we are facing? When I said, these are the technologies, what are the challenges? We have a visibility challenge. So just to tell you, there are going to be 5 billion devices which are going to be, not 50 billion devices by 2020, and 75 billion devices are the IoT devices which are going to come up, right? And on each person, there are going to be almost 6 to 9 sensors, right? There's a visibility challenge which is going to be there. How do you really address those cybersecurity issues? You want to have the privacy and the regulation issues, which are huge. And we have been talking of the privacy laws, the data privacy, your data localization, huge. And one more good point for all you students, there's going to be a talent shortage, right? So this is the area which you need to work on. And when I say cybersecurity, it's not just the cybersecurity. You should be competent to handle the IIoTs, the IoT, the edge computing, the fog computing, right? The blockchain, right? AI, machine learning, all put together. It's not one shoe fit all model, again and again, which I'm telling you, right? And like I told you, you have disjointed security products. There's no one solution which can safeguard you. Even in your laptop which you're using, even your mobile phone which you're using today, it's not one solution which will be required. It will be multiple solutions to safeguard you, right? And new technologies are exposing the new threats, right? And there are huge number of threats which are happening. Every day there's a new threat. And I told you the last 6 months, how the things have changed. It's really mind-boggling, okay? And it's a time to work, and the amount of attacks which are happening are phenomenal, and we need to identify them before it's too late. So I'll show you how it really works, okay? And the people who are interested in cloud security, so people are getting into the SOC, the Security Operations Center, huge opportunity for you guys, right? Phishing and the deepfakes, I will not touch upon the deepfakes, but deepfakes is another technology where you can fake a video of a person and play it, and people will not come to know that who the original person is. And of course, the ransomware, we've been talking of it quite often now. And why this cybersecurity has become a main say in the digital transformation is, if you look at it, almost $1 trillion has been spent over the past 7 years on cybersecurity itself. Okay, and it is increasing. Just to give you a figure, there's a company called Garmin which gives you a GPS, and it was hacked by the ransomware, and it started from Singapore, and they siphoned off the complete data. Okay, they paid $10 million to get the data back and get back on the service, and it took them almost 15 days. And similarly, other attacks which are happening, so huge landscape, right? Whether it's a power grid, whether it's a college, and to tell you, 7 colleges in UK, they had, their data was hacked. Now you say, what's there in the college data? It's your research work, it's all gone. They paid ransomware to get the data back. University of Utah, they paid $450,000 to get their data back. So it's a real challenge and real challenging world when it comes to the threat landscape, and the hackers are really having a ball today. And what are the top trends which are there now when we talk of the cybersecurity from the digital transformation part of view? It's about digital privacy risk and leaks in the cloud, which we are seeing, your data anonymization, de-anonymization attack, your social media scandals, that's really very happening. Cyberbullying, and to tell you a figure, whether you believe it or not, 50% of you students would have been hit by the cyberbullying. You would have not even come to know, right? Because we don't have those stringent laws to take care of cyberbullying. But most of you would have been part of that attack by cyberbullying or cyber stalking. Your Internet of Things attack, your smart city attacks, which are smart cities which are there. Say, for example, while you're sitting in Greater Noida, if I hack your complete city, your power grid, you're all gone, right? Your water grid, if I hack it. So that's a challenge. You never thought that your water pipelines could be hacked, right? Your power grid could be hacked. So those sensors which are being placed, they are the kind of the real play game for the hackers. The dark side of the AI, which I told you, the deep fake, it's really catching up. And the deep fake is, they say like it's going to be a real game changer or a spoiler when we talk of the US elections, which are going to happen just in the month of November. Okay, your e-payment fraud. So it, so many e-payment frauds which are always happening, and Paytm attacks. Most of you do get hacked by those kind of things. Your regulatory compliances, and for that matter, India, we are coming up with the National Cybersecurity Strategy 2020. Okay, so whosoever are interested in the cybersecurity, it's not just about talking about the cybersecurity, it's talking of all the technologies which I have spoken about. So when I talk of the cybersecurity, just don't think that I'm only talking about the cybersecurity. Think of the other pillars, which are the main pillars to, or the enablers for the cybersecurity, right? Then is the cryptocurrency and the blockchain. Of course, that's major important. And blockchain security will be a major challenge, a major issue when we talk of it. And of course, the digital transformation and the cyber transformation, what we talk of. This is what I was trying to tell. Today, the window of opportunity, wherever you are, even if your laptop, your personal laptop, your mobile phone, any malware attack which hits you, right? If you're not able to find out the malware attack within first 7 minutes of it, hitting you or targeting you, you cannot find out the malware attack for next 248 days at an average, right? It's very difficult because anytime earlier, just to give you a background, earlier when you used to be hit by a virus, it was just a virus and you used to format and you used to have antivirus, and that's the end of it, and you'll be back within half an hour, you're recouped. Whereas in the case of the malware, anytime when I said like I told you, 3.2 billion malware attacks happening, or 360,000 malwares in a day, any malware which is coming to you now, it's a human being who enters your machine. He opens the gate backwards, creates a command and control center, and actually controls you, whether it's for ransomware attack, whether he controls you otherwise, that's what he does. So malwares today are equally dangerous, and they come in different forms, whether it's a, the ransomware, whether it comes to an APT, that's a national level attack, that's a advanced persistent threat, so huge. But the window of opportunity with you is only 7 minutes. And all these devices which I've told you, they have to react in 7 minutes. And today's devices, today's security devices are not competent to handle that kind of situation. So what do? We get in with the AI. AI is the enabler. And just to give you such a complex network, when we talk about the digital transformation, the word is really very interesting, digital transformation. But when it comes from the network perspective, it's so complex to handle. You have the global, distribution of networks. You have the IoTs. You have the remote workers. You have the digital ecosystem. You have the third-party laptops. Huge 5G. Name a technology, it's there, and it's so complex to handle. If I give it to a IT network chap, he really fumbles with the complete network diagram as to how it's going to work. But AI is one enabler which really helps you. And when we talk of the security again, earlier you used to say device security or your network security is important. Today, just see, I've listed the type of securities which you have, which you need to look into. Right? I've missed out the OT security as well. So your endpoint security, network security, application security, data security, cloud security, web security. It's a huge bunch of security, ecosystem today. How to handle it? That's a major challenge, and that is where AI plays a role. And here again, some data sources that and the digital transformation is all about data, right? Huge data. Raw data, unstructured data, structured data, and the data coming from your mobiles or your network. So when it comes from your devices or something, just imagine you're having a normal company with 500 computers. They have around 5,000 events per second, and if you put those events into hours and day, the amount of events which are there are phenomenal. So whether it's coming from your Wi-Fi device or your DNS or your network flow, a huge amount of data which is coming up. And how do you really handle this data? Your devices can't handle anymore, right? Your firewall can't handle these kind of logs or events which are there. It's pretty difficult, right? So that's where the things comes up, is where you're looking in for more enhanced attack surface devices which are coming up. There are more threat integrated platforms. Now we talk of a word called threat intelligence. If you're interested, you can get back to me. I'll guide you on what's a threat intelligence and threat hunting, right? So that really will be of interest to you guys. That's the new technologies which have come up. So be aware of all those things. It's not just your security, which is just antivirus security. Your behavior, because most of the attacks today are done by the human being. They're the weakest link in the complete network. So they are the ones, and the user behavior is one which we actually take into account. 67% of attacks in any network are based on the user behavior, and lots of devices using AI and ML. We are getting into kind of thing, right? And this is where your AI plays in a major role, whether it's your malware identification, your phishing detection, your communication analysis. And how do you do it? You use deep learning, you use NLP, that's the natural language processing, you use machine learning, and you use the statistics, right? That gives you the power to analyze all these threats, these attacks. And these are the dangers of AI when we talk of it. There are malware attacks which can happen, but then if you have AI, you can really stop that happening. You have the facial recognition challenges which are coming up, huge, and lots of them where we can work with the AI. And when you come on the deep learning, because the AI, the subset is a deep learning, and deep learning really helps you do the network intrusion detections. It helps you the phishing attack URL detection. So you really can use the deep learning to assist you in getting into the AI part. And to tell you, we talk of one of the webinars when I was giving they said, why can't a computer generate a algorithm for itself? And the reply to that is like the algorithm which a computer develops, I don't know what it's going to do with it. And we are in an existential challenge when it comes to the AI. So the cybersecurity, when we talk of AI against AI, computer against computer, right? It is the kind of security parameters or the security things which we are trying to work on in the future, right? And this is how the cat and the mouse game is, and the paradigm shift which we are taking. And what we see on the left side, we are seeing earlier time, we were all reactive. We were all based on the detections. We were based on the IOCs, indicator of compromises. It was all event based. It was, everything was centralized data lakes and analytics. And you had a very fixed rules for everything. Your firewalls were fixed. They had, the parameters were all fixed. But today what you have is all proactive. You're looking in for the protection and automation. You're looking at the behavior, the UEBA, which I told you. It's a risk-based. There's a fantastic paper, by Gartner, where they came up with a subject called CARTA, C-A-R-T-A. Where they said, your risks and the threats are no more static. They are dynamic. They are changing every day, right? So that is why your complete security posture also has to change. It has to be very adaptive, right? So that is how, and it's more decentralized data and analytics what we are seeing. And this is where, before I'll close very quickly, because I think I've taken a lot of time. This is where, when we were in 1990s, which I started, we always spoke of the perimeter, security. We were all network centric, and the data was north to south. That's the vertical data which we always spoke of, right? 2000 to 2010, we spoke of the virtual machines. We talk of application-centric data which was there. And today we talk of the data-centric and the user-centric data, 2020. That's more in cloud. And instead of the north-south traffic, we talk of the east-west traffic. And most of the devices today, whether the firewall and all those devices, are not capable of handling the east-west traffic. And that is where a very fantastic technology which comes in, that's called the zero trust, right? And that's the technology which is, and most of the companies today, all these companies are trying to get into the zero trust. They have different methodologies of talking of zero trust into micro-segmentation and otherwise, but this is how the future is going to be, which is going to be all user-centric or data-centric, right? And here, your risk is dynamic, your threats are dynamic. Remember this, okay? And something more, we always talk of the kill chain, very common, which it came from the Lockheed Martin, and most of the hackers today use the kill chain. Okay, they start from the reconnaissance, the weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation. So just see a hacker when he comes in, he's well prepared. Are you well prepared for this? The answer is no. That's why he's able to overtake you, right? So he's going through all these steps, right? And we have to have the security tools which really work on that. And what is that going to be? We have to be having a new paradigm which encompass, threat intelligence, which I was telling you, which is chasing the zero-day attack, very reactive, constantly changes, and it also focuses on the external attack. And the second part is your behavioral intelligence, the UEBA part, very important. And understand the normal behavior of human and devices, how they're stealing the data. And that is where the interesting part of the human behavior comes in, and the human intelligence and the behavior intelligence comes. It's a very huge subject to discuss on.
Yes.
Some of the research areas which I wanted to list it for you may be of interest. There are lots of numerous foundational problems which are still unsolved, where you can work on the taxonomies, your entities, or resolution of identity arbitration in the kill chain. You can go on for capturing the expert knowledge, right, on this particular kill chain itself. You can also have a lot of research in NLP, SNAs, your peer group analytics, risk computation, and you also can work on the human factor and the human behavior framework. So that's really interesting areas of research when we talk of the digital transformation, and especially the AI in putting that. And it's a big challenge when we talk of the AI in the digital transformation. So big one, and we have to be really kind of be geared for the next level of the technologies, next level of the softwares, next level of the threat landscape and the threat vectors, right? So with this, I have come to the end of the digital transformation part of it. So I will take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Colonel Inderjeet. It was really a great insight. Just one question. Students wanted to know that when we are talking about the cyber physical systems, how they are able to create the seamless integration between different devices which are on the heterogeneous environment. Is any concern that is taking place when we are, exposed to in this heterogeneity where everything is exposed, especially with the
So
cyber physical systems?
yeah, when we talk about the cyber physical system, you have to understand the cyber physical system is all about your IoT devices which are there, and how do you really handle the security in this case. So you are getting into edge computing or the fog computing, and you're trying to push in the security to the last today, right? And here what you're trying to do is in the cyber physical system is comes in your OT security also encompasses in this particular part of it, and you have lots of solutions. And the OT security, of course, is a very interesting subject altogether when it comes to the cyber physical systems. Security parameters are concerned. So normal security devices like firewall, IPS, IDS really don't work there. You have a kind of a unidirectional firewalls which can control or safeguard your cyber physical system from your IT network, right? So that is how you're able to safeguard those systems.
Thank you so much, sir. Kriti, you can take over, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir, for such an enriching session. We have with us